Next, we have Animal Control Department overview, Chief Jeff Randazzo. Good afternoon, Chief.
Good afternoon, Chair, and welcome to the new commissioners. I'm just going to get to my little taskbar here, so I have a little display for you. What?
We've always got penguins around.
I know. Right, but it was a good support. So thank you, John, for that. So I'm just here today to talk to you about animal control. And also, again, I would like to welcome all the commissioners and just give you a little brief overview of what we do in animal control. Most of you know me, and I'm going to make this really brief for you. So, let's see. I'm Chief Jeff Randazzo. I'm the Chief Animal Control Officer for all of Macomb County. I have an executive assistant, Michael Hudson, who is here with me today. And we have 7 animal control officers. We have 7 kennel attendants. We have 4 office staff, and we have part-time veterinarians. So currently, we don't have any full-time veterinarians. What are our primary functions? Well, what do? We service 21 communities in Macomb County. There are 4 of the cities we do not service as far as putting an animal control officer in those cities. But we do allow every city and township in this county brings their animals to our animal control division here at the county. But again, those 4 communities have their own animal control officer who transports them to us. We house for those 4 cities. So even though they have their own animal control officer, we actually house them for the animal's duration. So after their legal hold time, they are then property of the county. We bill those 4 cities for bringing animals to us on a daily basis, but only for the legal hold time. So that means a dog is held for 4 business days. We might have that dog in our custody for 15 days. But after that 4th business day, the county, my department is now paying for the care of those animals, okay? One of our big primary functions is animal cruelty investigations. And we'll talk about that in the next slide, but animal bite investigations, rabies specimens. So this entire county, whenever there's a situation that involves rabies, so a person's bit by a dog, wildlife, it's a dog and animal to animal, it is filtered through my division. We send all those tests to Lansing. So earlier when you heard the gentleman talk about avian influenza, that was my staff collecting those samples for our county. We turn them into the state and also the DNR. We obviously license dogs. We obviously care for all the homeless animals that are in our possession. That also includes livestock. So we are one of the few counties, animal control divisions, that handle livestock. And just recently we took out 40 head of livestock out of a farm in Lenox. So that's a really tasking thing to do, is find placement, permanent placement for all those animals. And to find it at 2 o'clock in the morning. We also do adoptions. So a lot of the animals, even though we have strong relationships with rescue groups and Pet Supply Plus and Gibraltar Trade Center, we actually do adoptions right out of our facility. Other public service that we provide are private cremations, owner request euthanasia, roadkill removal. We're the only animal control division in the state of Michigan that removes dead carcasses from the roadway. Most of that's done by Department of Roads. We assist with wildlife and concerns, so we try to get the residents to try to find some sort of harmony with living with wildlife, because as you know, it's usually going to be a big problem, especially this time of year when we have all the little babies. So just to give you a recap of 2016, how we look, we have a 91% save rate, so that's a really big deal for maybe the new commissioners or whoever else didn't know what it looked like 4 years ago. We had an 86% euthanasia rate. 86% of all the animals that walked into the building left out of the incinerator. Now, 91% of our lives are saved. And it really has to do with our entire staff, and the amazing support that we get. We did over 700 neglect complaints last year. We did almost 900 bite cases. And we did 1,000 animals at large, so it's running loose. That is not just dogs and cats. So last Thursday, if anybody was watching the news, we removed 4 hogs running on 24 Mile and Card Road. So that was quite a fun day at 7 o'clock in the morning. We take in over 4,500 animals a year. We are the second largest, highest volume animal control division in the state of Michigan. And we have a 91% save rate. So we are number one in the state of Michigan. So for open admission. So we take over 60,000 phone calls. So I had IT, Jaco just gave me a report last Thursday, because I just wanted to make sure I had my numbers right, because when I looked at it, I was like, this is really high. But just from January 1st to last Tuesday, my staff, those 4 staff members, answered 31,000 phone calls, with the duration of that phone call being 3 minutes and 13 seconds. And when you look at those numbers, it's over 800 hours of phone calls, just in phone calls. So that's a really big, important thing for us, that we're really that busy. Those same 4 people are doing adoptions, they're dispatching the radio, and they're taking in stray animals over the counter. And that's when we talk about doing a dedicated staff. They're truly dedicated. This is just some animal cruelty investigations that take up the biggest portion of our time. Everybody knows Elvira from last year when we took her in. But we do, most of the calls are animal neglect, animal cruelty, backyard breeding, exotic animals, pet shop complaints, and horse riding stables, which were mandated by law to investigate all of those. So, and it's not just dogs and cats that we just talked about. So, there's one of our little pigs. We have our little fawn there, some snakes, goats, and raccoons, so we have wildlife. But obviously, there's a lot of, still plenty of dogs and cats that we are, helping out there. What does it look like for when we do medical care for our animals? We use best practices that are provided by the veterinary schools and shelter medicine programs. So we partner with them, and they say every animal that comes into that building is vaccinated upon intake. That's why we don't have, kennel cough, like when I took it over, and we don't have MRSA or any other, staph infections. By law, every animal that leaves there has to be spayed and neutered under Act 287. So that's pretty daunting for us, because I do have a grant. We did receive a grant through the state to put in a surgical suite. So we have most of our equipment in. So hopefully soon this year we could start that. We test every animal for intestinal parasites, all the felines for infectious diseases, heartworm testing, we do all the blood work. In 2016, we treated which I know of off the top of my head, about 22 cases of heartworm, positive, dogs that were positive for heartworm. That's really big, because 4 years ago we didn't, we just euthanized them. So we were able to do that, work with, all these rescue groups and get those animals treated. We've treated everything from eye removals, broken bones, canine parvovirus, mange, and much more than that. So that's why we get to that 91%. As we mentioned earlier, Mount Clemens, Warren, Sterling Heights, and East Point, they have their own animal control, but they do bring all their animals that they have in their custody to us. And that includes their court cases, stray animals. All those animals are brought to our facility here at Macomb County. The animals that are in our care, they're treated, they're returned to the owner, or they're adopted out through our animal control division. So that's a really important key. Cities like Mount Clemens, Warren, Sterling Heights, and East Point, they do pay us a per day fee for those animals, but it's only for their legal hold time. So it's about 4 business days, which kind of translates to 7 calendar days. And then after that, those animals are the custody of the county. Currently, the city of St. Clair Shores, and then starting July 1st, Roseville, they're the only 2 cities in the entire county that pay for contractual animal control services. Nobody else pays, which we think they should, but that's a whole nother topic. We are the leader in our industry, especially for our state. We provide training to a lot of municipalities, such as Genesee County, Oakland County. We just started working again with St. Clair County to, in Detroit Animal Control, to improve best practices. And so they do come to our facility. We do go to their facility as well, to hopefully that, they could raise their level of standards as well. because we know it can be done because we've done it here in Macomb. We partner with certification programs for continuing education. So we just had the University of Missouri here teaching at our police academy for a week, and obviously my staff went through it as well. But the whole goal is that we are trying to bridge this gap between law enforcement and the Macomb County Sheriff's Department so that we could have officers that are road patrol, learn about animals, their detective bureaus, learn about cruelty investigations, and really kind of, together really tackle some of these important cases out there and be successful at it. We do a lot of community outreach as well. We partner with a lot of schools, Macomb Community College Vet Tech Program, Baker. We are in talks with Michigan State University with shelter medicine programs. So we are doing a lot of great things. We also reach out to, the mail carriers, FedEx. We do a lot of programs for them, teaching about dog behavior, what they can do to protect themselves because they are not allowed to carry any sort of weapons. How do we do it? Once again, it is having dedicated staff. I feel as though the more and more I've been here, the more we are, and we have this positive outlook on our community and our state, we really attract some amazing people. I send my staff to training every year. I think that's really important, continuing education. I don't want them to hear it from me. I want them to hear it from the experts out in the field. And that's why we work with the University of Missouri in a lot of different places. We partnership with local rescue groups. And we mentioned veterinary colleges, numerous grants, but you're going to hear another one today right after this. And but that's really important, right? Because it did, our program, I probably obtained over $700,000 in 4 years in grants. And that's a really big thing because we could have never got to where we are today without having those amazing grants. But mostly, the support from the Board of Commissioners and the Executive Office really makes the biggest impact on what we do because you allow me to be free thinking and you allow me to implement programs that are life-saving to the animals that are in our community. And that's how we get to number one. I can tell you that I've sat on many, many meetings just recently with St. Clair County, some other places, and it's really hard because you could have a lot of amazing ideas, but if you have a board that will stop you, you're going to go nowhere. So I truly applaud you for allowing me to have that organic and free thinking and reaching out to the community because in the end of the day, it really reflects all of us. And we want it to be a place that we're proud of. And this is certainly one department at number one in the state with a 91% save rate that you truly can be proud of.
Thank you very much, Chief.
You are welcome.
Is there a motion and support? We have a motion by Brown, support by Lucido. Number one, get on the list. Number one on the hit parade is Commissioner Romano.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for coming, Chief.
Thank you.
Maybe you people don't know, but Chief Randazzo was our chief officer in Sterling Heights, and I still resent the fact he came to Macomb County, but I'm just teasing. Anyway, here's my questions. And I guess this would go first to the chair. This is a grant for $10,000 you're receiving, and I guess it goes to the board here.
That's the next item. Next
Okay,
item.
forget that grant then. Let's talk about this.
This is
At
the
least I
department
see a lot.
overview.
Excuse me. Sorry?
This is the department overview,
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
just so we're straight.
Are you done?
Let me write it out for you.
Okay. I see a lot of repetition here and maybe it's me, but I look at this animal cruelty in Sterling, in any municipalities. The police department responds first, and they may or may not ticket because of animal cruelty. I see dog bites, same situation where we had a serious situation in Sterling Heights with pit bulls. We tried to ban them, and there was a big outcry for that. But my question is, these things seem to be like, where do you get involved in when it comes in an animal bite? It goes to the let's use Sterling Heights. It goes to Sterling Heights Police Department. They issue a ticket for it. Animal cruelty. They come out, the same situation. Why does it involve the Macomb County Animal Control Officer?
Because what happens is all bites are regulated through the state, right? So all the quarantine that could be done at Macomb County Animal Control, because you're not going to have a place to house it, right? So say there's a really serious dog bite in Sterling Heights, right? You're not going to be able to house it at the police station, right, which is where you have your shelter license. It has to come to the county, and then it has to be lodged. That bite report has to be filed at the health department. And then it's turned in, we report all that to the state.
Okay. I understand
Same thing
that.
with your cruelty case.
Got it now.
Right.
Okay, the cremation that you do, is there a cost? I'm sure there has to be some sort of cost to the
There is a
individual.
cost. So it's currently $100 for a private cremation.
And when you're putting an animal down?
It would be $75.
That's all I have. Thanks, Chair.
4
Thank
years
you.
ago, it was free.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next, we have Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you, Chair. Would you please again repeat the two communities that pay and what it is those communities pay for that nobody else does?
Sure. So those two communities would be St. Clair Shores, and starting July 1st will be the city of Roseville. So they're the only two communities that pay for contractual animal control services. So we have an officer that is designated to St. Clair Shores, right? They're out there patrolling just like we do with all the other cities. But the difference is that St. Clair Shores pays for that service. So Clinton Township has an officer, right? But they don't pay. And it's just how when I started, that's what happened. But since I've been here, and new communities wanted to come on, they pay.
Did you
'Cause they had their youth
indicate
Go
that Sterling Heights, because I'm thinking cities versus townships, is this a cities versus townships thing? Or are there cities that don't pay?
Fraser,
Fraser doesn't
Centerline,
pay?
Yeah, Utica.
Okay, well, given, I have to tell you, given the fact that I represent one of those communities, I resent that.
Well, and I
I
live in the
resent
Shores.
that there's a double standard and my community's paying and I don't want to pay next year. Since nobody else is paying, I'm just letting you know in the budget next year, I'll be looking to remove that revenue section unless there is a fixing of this situation.
Well, when I started here, that's what we inherited. So the only way to fix it was for those new communities that wanted to come on, someone had to pay because there was no money.
No,
in the
I don't have a
budget.
problem with that,
Right.
but the way to fix it is to then tell the other communities that we're going to start contracting and you have to pay.
I love that idea, and I've just tried that for 4 years. So I agree with you.
And if they say no, say okay. Enjoy your cats and dogs and your hogs and your, you know,
I agree with you.
all right.
I would be willing to sit down and talk on that one for sure.
Okay, and then, now this is I'm just curious. There was a vehicle in the St. Clair Shores Parade.
Yes.
What was the cost of that vehicle?
That I don't know. Are you referring to that big truck?
Yes.
Great, because I wanted to talk about that. So in 4 years that I have worked here, we are picking up the deer, and we use that same truck that is not a four-wheel drive. I inherited that truck. And on many occasions during animal cruelty investigations, when we were moving horses out of a farm, just like recently when we
The Expedition, we're talking about the Expedition?
No, we're talking about the Ford 350.
No, I mean, this was it's like an SUV type of thing.
Oh, those are our animal control vehicles.
Okay, so it's an Expedition.
Yes, yes.
So what would be the cost of one of those?
Well, I know to outfit it was, because there's animal cages inside, was $16,000. The actual cost of it, off the top of my head, I don't know. I can get it for you though.
Yeah, I would like that, because I looked at that vehicle and that looks like it's more than 50,000, and I just didn't remember.
I know it's not more than 50,000.
Okay.
Yeah, I think honestly it was 32 because it's just plain inside, But we had to get it outfitted with metal cages so that we could house the animals in the inside of it.
Okay.
It's
All
a
right.
standard SUV like Expedition.
All right. Yeah. Will you get
Yeah.
that cost? Maybe I'm even thinking about something different. Get
Yeah.
that cost from me.
Okay, great.
All right. Thank you. Thank
you're
you, Chair.
welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Smith.
Thank you. Jeff, thank you for your presentation.
Oh, you're
I was a
welcome. Thank you
little,
for inviting me.
I was a little unnerved by the fact that you think that we encourage free thinking.
Right.
I want you to make
I'm glad
know
you
that we
do.
don't.
I'm glad you do.
So Real quick, touching on Commissioner Kleinfeld's point, I can't imagine a commissioner around here, paying side or non-paying side, that would be for the system the way it sits right now, and not for saying, cut it out. I mean, listen, the sheriff department works the same way, even though some of our northern communities try to get a little more for their money.
And speaking of your northern communities, right? So if we're up in the northern community and we need service, you have to decide if we're in, MSP territory, or are you with, the sheriff? So it's, for us, we really work this whole entire county other than 4. And we still give those 4 communities backup.
Right, so I would say that if you could find out the logistics behind cutting service to the communities that don't pay, all the while offering them an opportunity to get in on the paying side of things without losing any service if they were willing to do so, I would like you to maybe bring that to us and tell us what that would entail.
Absolutely.
Next, you mentioned partnerships with Missouri and different places like this. Do we do partnerships with MSU? I know they're a big veterinary.
Yeah, we just started, actually, we just started because they just recently just kind of tapped into shelter medicine.
Okay.
So University of Missouri, University of California, Davis, they're a really big, like probably #1 for shelter medicine. So I've been talking with the professor up there, trying to see what we could do to bring some students down that are going to be in their shelter medicine program.
Great. Spaying and neutering, you mentioned something about a grant to kind of basically get an operating room, for lack of better word.
Correct.
Who does this now? Do you ship this off, and do we pay a contract cost for this? And
Yep, so we have contracted veterinary services, and we have to have our staff drive our animals to the vet clinic, drop them off, and then, later on that day, we have to go pick them back up.
So what would be the cost, though, involved with our own surgical site? Do we have to then hire a veterinarian that could do that, or I mean, is that in the process of your thoughts? I mean, what?
So we
obviously
would,
need to run.
so most of all the equipment is paid for by a grant, right? What the benefit of having the surgical suite would be that we would no longer have to be spending money of having officers transport these animals all around town.
Right.
And then the cost savings would be is we could actually do everything in-house, spay and neutering.
Right.
Not big stuff, but just spay and neutering would be great. And then we could have a vet there, more hours. That would, because right now we only have the vet there for an hour a day.
Seems like you'd be able to show the numbers as if not
absolutely.
Worst case wash, but best case
Yeah, and how much
savings,
we spend at the vet clinic versus, we could keep all that, saved revenue, I think,
Got it.
in-house.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Next on the list, we have Commissioner Lucido.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, how are you?
If any of you haven't been over there, I'm sure you probably have. It's an amazing facility. I've been over a few times with Jeff, and he's taken me around, shown me everything, and it's top-notch. You guys do a great job. I wanted to touch on that, and that I know we've talked, and you've helped organize and help Wayne County a lot, too. They call on you quite a bit for advice, so I just wanted to commend you for that. Also, on the work you guys do on grants, which saves our county money. I know you guys spend a lot of time working on those grants.
Yes, thank you very much.
You started to talk about one of the vehicles you use when you do, when you go in and you have to take the big animals.
Right.
But you didn't finish.
Oh.
Because Veronica was talking about the expedition.
Yes. So what happened was we would go up to the northern part of the county especially. So I inherited this truck that we use actually to pick up deer and large carcasses off the road. And we use that same truck to pull a livestock trailer. And in several cases, that truck would get stuck and we'd have to unload all these animals into the side of a road and then wait for my family or like Wolcott Mill to come over with a big 10-horse trailer, and we had to reload them on the side of a road, which is extremely dangerous. So I said, this is it. If we're gonna be doing this, we need a truck that can pull livestock, and I'll apply for a grant to try to get the trailer portion, but they couldn't get one to cover the truck part. And so we actually did end up getting a new truck, like a F-150. And we put it in the parade. So I
Very
thought that
good.
was really interesting. I wanted people to see, because I was so embarrassed that I had to unload all these horses. It doesn't, one time it was in the winter and we had to, release them into a field and then try to re-catch them and get Wolcott Mill out there to help us trailer them back. Yeah,
Well, we're fortunate because I know you have family that have taken in animals and helped
Right.
out in different situations too.
Yeah, my
So,
family came with a 10-horse trailer
Yeah.
on that one.
I mean, that's amazing. We're fortunate for that as well. And also, I wanted to mention, you've talked a lot about Macomb Community College and how the vet program, you work together with them. I know you were asking about Michigan State, and I just wanted you to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, so I developed that relationship when I first started in 2013. So we give their vet tech program probably about 6 dogs, 6 cats, every few weeks during their semester. So the students learn how to draw blood and restrain the animals, and then they spay and neuter, do all the medical care. So we actually pay nothing for that. They do all the medical care, and then they bring the animals back to us, and then we adopt them out. So it's a really amazing program, and we do the same thing with Baker College. So we're trying now to work up something with, and then we also worked with Wayne Community College. They would take 15 dogs for us a semester, and they would house them, and they do all their medical care and spay and neutering. So that was really amazing. That you figure that was hundreds of animals throughout a year that we are able to allow vet tech students to have this amazing experience, and then do this great service, and then we could adopt them out, and the county actually saved a lot of expense from that.
And also, I wanted to touch base on the Gibraltar. I know you guys do a lot of adoption through there, and
do.
is it free, or there's
No,
a small fee?
They're usually relatively small fees over at Gibraltar Trade Center, and that's on every few Saturdays from 10 to 2. The biggest thing that we do, we helped out with the Bissell Empty the Shelter event. So the Bissell Pet Foundation paid for all the adoption fees for anybody that was adopting on a specific day. We just emptied the entire shelter. This is our 3rd time participating in that program.
And when's the next one?
We don't know yet. They didn't announce it, but
Okay.
usually it was only once a year, and then last year we did twice. And then this year we just had our first one. So I think they're going to do it again probably later in the year.
Okay.
But it's, they pay for a lot of that stuff, so it's great. So I always look, and I know Michael works extremely hard, as well, looking for all the grants or all the things that we could participate in to market our animals and get them out there.
And save the community money too.
Exactly.
So thank you. And the next time you do have that, let us know, and we can try and get the word out too.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you. Is it legal for people on their own property to use an air rifle to shoot a raccoon or a groundhog that's underneath their buildings?
I would say no. I just had a meeting with the DNR, and I would definitely say no to that.
Okay.
I know that certain people do have farms, and so on property or land that is deemed to be agricultural, I think, I know my family has a farm, so I know that they do fall under some different laws there.
Okay.
But definitely, I know in the communities that I service, that it would be illegal,
What if
to the best of my knowledge.
So if they trap them like in a box cage alive, they call you and you come pick them up?
No. What we do is we try to explain to people that if you have nuisance wildlife, we will give you some amazing deterrents that we know that are proven and they're going to work. If you're trapping wildlife and you're just relocating it throughout the county, the DNR, certainly doesn't, even though we have a license, it's not something that you're just making it someone else's problem. So our goal is just trying to explain to people how we could give you the deterrents, even come out and talk to you about it and see where we go from there. And then if it's an ongoing thing, then we will try to help you out, as far as giving you some numbers.
Okay. Deer seem to be a lot more deer out on the roads this year. They all come out to the side of the road to die, and so they lay on the side of the road. And I've had them there I called in one, it took about a week for you guys to get up there to take care of it. You must be busy, but raised my question about your staffing. Do you have enough, how does that work in terms of collecting animals? You probably spread thin, I'd imagine, but can you
Right.
explain to me a little about how that works?
Yeah. So for removal of carcasses, unless it's impeding the traffic, or it's in front of a school or something where we really need to get it right away, we usually we only are fully staffed on Wednesday. So we try to save everything for Wednesday, and then early in the morning, try to get that person. They're going to have, 15 animals at least to go to and pick
Okay.
up.
That's
Yeah.
right, they did say it'd probably be a Wednesday.
Right.
And it was a few days after, it wasn't Wednesday when they called, so it might have been that 5 days later, so that makes sense then. Okay.
Right, and it is hard because say you call on a Friday, then they're gonna put it on the list for that following Wednesday. You know, but like if it's at a school or something, we try to get right out there right away, but we're only fully staffed on Wednesdays.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Drollet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chief, for your presentation. A couple quick questions. You had mentioned a lot of the grants that you applied for and received. Can you give me a sense of what % of your operations are funded via grants? Is there?
Well, so grants that we apply for, where we could even find, never pay for operational cost. It's only for remodeling. So most of all the kennels, that was all paid for by grant. Spay and neuter, that was, in the beginning, there was a big portion of it that was paid for by grant money. So the trap, neuter, return program for cats, that a big portion of that's grant money.
Still, it must be a sense of the. If you had to pay for that with operations money, if you didn't have those grants, I mean, what % of your overall services are essentially are grant funded? Is it? I know that it may be hard to get a sense of that because it might be things you wouldn't otherwise do if you didn't receive a grant for it.
Right. I mean, I could tell you just like that bank of cages, that's $13,000, and those are just half cages. So earlier this year, we put in a row of cages, and that was like $33,000. But we've covered most of all that with grant money. It would never even be a thought that we could put them in.
Okay. Just trying to get a sense of the value of the grants toward the overall operation is all.
Well, I mean, I guess to me, the value of the grant is like, immeasurable because it paid for remodeling, even though it doesn't pay for administrative fees or anything. It paid for a tremendous amount of spay and neutering. That was the first grant was $150,000, and it was for people that lived in specific areas, a little lower income, that we could spay and neuter all their animals for free. And that grant, ran for like a year and a half. That would never have been happening. We could never have done that.
Do dog license fees go toward your department in any way?
They do. They're probably the number one revenue generator.
Are they? Okay.
Right. That's why we always do a big license push,
And finally, the commissioners who've been here continuously probably have heard this story before, but you mentioned that the department's gone from, what was it, 85% kill rate or something like that? 87% 4 years ago to a 90-something percent. 91% non-kill rate. That seems incredibly dramatic in a short period of time. And maybe people who've been here understand the story of that, and I know we don't have a lot of time, but what's the main reason that's happened? I mean, is there some...
The cats, the feral cats.
Has there been just less animals coming in? Has there been more...
I say leadership.
Okay.
I say it's leadership, being innovative in your thinking, and having ideas and partnerships, and having support. Because without the support, it was never going to happen. I still, Mark Delton and I sat with St. Clair County, and you could tell when people want to do stuff. Like the Commissioner was just saying, a big portion of animals that were euthanized were cats. And so the biggest amount of grant money we could get was to do trap, neuter, and return for these cats, because we looked at fact-based research. And
so you trap the cat, you neuter the cat, and you release it back into the wild, essentially?
Correct, yep.
Okay.
Well, back into your backyard.
Right. Well,
When
previously they would have been killed, I assume. The cat would have been kept for a certain number of days. And
Actually, we're going to put them in your car next.
Right.
Okay, so that would be the biggest reason why, that particular program was a major reason then.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's probably one of the biggest factors.
Okay.
Right. But the other part is that, we are treating animals now. So before, with the day when I started, there was no medication in the building. So now we have medication. Now we have vets treating them. And so we're saving lives. We do have animals longer in our care, so that's, sometimes, I guess, because we're medically treating them.
I see.
So it wasn't like time's up,
Right. Okay, well, that answers my questions. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. Last on the list is Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Real quick, I want to get back to what Commissioner Kleinfeld and Chair Smith were talking about. And I'm going to take something you said specifically. The trailer that you had and then the need for the Ford F-350. you were able to get the trailer through some grant money, correct?
Not yet, so that's what we're
Okay,
working on
you're
right
working
now.
on.
Yeah.
But the F-350 that you need to take care of the horses
Right.
and a lot of bigger livestock, that came from your general fund, correct?
Correct.
Okay. St. Clair Shores, one of the cities I represent,
It's my city.
Good. Well, we're contractually, we pay. St. Clair Shores pays.
Right.
So in a sense, some of these other communities that aren't paying, St. Clair Shores paid for that Ford F-350 that picked up that horse or whatever you need the livestock for, right? Right?
Well, I guess in a sense, I guess if you looked at it like that, I would think that everyone's paying into it.
I get that.
Right,
No, and
right.
I get that. And I'm not saying that people don't. It's just that I want to get back to what Commissioner Kleinfeld and Chairman Smith said. You even indicated when you first opened up, this is what you inherited. This seemed odd to you. Is there some way you can, because budget's coming up, and I'd like to see if there's some proposal you have so that it's fair, so that, yeah, everybody contributes in, and then I don't have any problem with you buying an F-350 to take care of horses and livestock, because I know, and you know, living in St. Clair Shores, name a place that has a horse in St. Clair Shores. You know anybody?
Right, no, I understand.
I just think that's fair. I just think that's fair. So our budget's going to be starting in August, if I understand correctly. And if possible, if you have an idea if that's fair and appropriate, so that every community pitches in, so that all communities are pitching in for whatever services are needed for animal control, I think that would be great for us to ponder at budget time.
You made my day, so that's great.
All right, well, if you could do that, thank you. Yeah.
Just in response to the St. Clair Shores question, they don't pay for the truck. Their contract's specifically based on the cost of the vehicle that's used in their city and the
Okay.
person that's assigned to their city.
Okay.
So they don't incur any of that additional cost.
Okay, that's good to know. I mean, I want to, but I do think other communities, I think everybody should pitch in. I guess the question I have too is, why would St. Clair Shores and Roseville pay for services? Because if they didn't, you would just do it anyway, wouldn't you?
No,
Okay,
no way.
no.
No way.
Well,
I
you
wouldn't.
you wouldn't do it, but I mean,
And no one would, and we're not even mandated by the state to do it.
okay.
So,
okay.
you know, because you'll get that too, like a lot of, cities will say, well, we'll just get rid of animal control and you'll have to do it, and no, we don't.
Okay, all right.
I
That,
went to
that
Michigan
makes
State.
me feel better. Okay.
Yeah, so the reason why they're paying is they want this level of service, right?
Okay.
They came to the county and they say, listen, you guys do a great job. We want that same service. Well, you're going to be paying for the animal control officer and you're going to be paying for this vehicle, and it's over a 5-year contract.
Okay. Okay, so
Does
I
that
get
make
it.
sense?
That makes me feel better because, number one, the community sought it out, and number two, there's a little bit more of a heightened service, and it's particular to that community. That vehicle is used for that community, hence the reason why that vehicle was in the St. Clair Shores Parade.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Yes, exactly.
All right, gotcha. All right, thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chair.
But everybody should
Commissioner
pay, so don't
Leonetti.
forget that. It's a good topic.
Last on the list, again, is Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you. Real quick, just to touch on something. It was brought up that there was a few communities in the north that don't pay for sheriff patrols. So in turn, the sheriff department, we have to have one by, excuse me? Anyways, with that said, we don't need a patrol up there, but you got a call or an emergency, then obviously you got to respond. You, as far as patrolling in communities that don't have your service or request your service, you're doing that at your own volition? Because there's no law saying you have to go to Bruce Township if they're not contracted with you. Or are the townships included in a wider thing because townships are part of a different form of government where cities have funds to perform their own services?
Maybe they pay per
See, there's apples and oranges, and I want to get it straight because townships don't receive Act 51 dollars. Cities receive it.
Right, it's not
Cities
roads,
receive, well, hold on a minute. Cities receive funds for animal control and they can do their own licensing, is that correct?
The cities could, but all the cities that we
Okay,
do
cities
it.
could. The ones that don't contract with you, there's no by law do you have to show up to those cities and perform any dog capture, go see if there's any loose dogs running around.
I believe there is. In Clinton Township, we sell their dog licenses,
Okay, let me digress and say it again. If there's a city
right?
that doesn't pay for your services, you still choose, though, to go look for stray dogs throughout that community. Is that correct or incorrect?
Listen, this is what I know. I know that when I took this over 4 years ago, that someone must have took over Fraser, someone took over Centerline, they already had Utica. That was all done before I started. I've had many, many talks with the Michigan Department of Agriculture and the state regarding this service that was already instituted for them, and they were providing this service. So the only way we could ever do anything, I feel, is either on a contractual basis or if we had a millage. And most other communities have millages,
Okay.
counties.
So he
Again, I want to
doesn't.
point out that the township's services are part of a program where I believe they either contract with you or not. But if you show up into a city and, like you're saying, they were doing it already before you got here, cut the service off until they want to sign a contract and pay. I mean, that's pretty simple to me.
Right, but my thing is, what would be the difference of, you're saying townships are different, because they're falling under something different, and
There's different funding for townships than there are for cities.
okay. If you lived in Fraser and you lived in this little city, or even Utica, but you live in Clinton Township, which has a vast majority of the runs. Right,
Yeah, I didn't make the rules up.
Right.
That's just the way that the state government
right.
laid it out.
I think that if anyone contracts with animal control, everybody should have a contract.
Okay, and people that don't contract with animal control,
Call
you
Oakland.
shouldn't be going there.
Right.
Fair enough.
At least, yeah, I agree.
And I think that's the point that we're all making here.
And those are great valid points, I think.
Okay, Commissioner Carabelli. Thank you. Commissioner Kleinfeld on the second round.
Thank you. Just probably with respect to that, what we need to get clarification for is, he's correct. Counties get money for some of the services provided to townships. But I don't know what all those are. So
Right.
probably to get clarification for that, because I've not heard, and as a city council member, that we got money specifically for animal control. I've never heard that. So that's something not specific to him that we need to get detailed information from Steve on exactly what the counties do get money for to provide services. Because I agree, in rural areas, there is an absolute reason for that. But when you have an area like Clinton Township that is built up as much or more than cities are, if we're not getting money and they're getting the same amount, they're getting their house dollars, their tax dollars for their homes, then if the county's not getting money for that, that's a discussion that we should have on those situations. But we need to get that information first. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing and hearing any more speakers, we have a motion and support to receive and file the department overview. Can you please vote? And thank you very much, I think. Yes. Next, 7A, grant agreement